Hello, I'm Tom Jones, and welcome to another free art lesson. I've got another exciting episode for you here this afternoon. I'm going to give you an example of how I do moving water, and this is going to be a fun one for you, so I hope you'll stay with me. This particular one is a area where I have a sort of a river coming through. There's a little bit of a fall where the water is moving and breaking and coming over some rocks, and then it comes out into the river in sort of a placid area here in the foreground. What you're seeing on this particular piece of paper is actually frisket. I've painted it on. I took an old brush, a number 8 round brush, not this one, but another brush, and I simply painted the frisket on. And then what I did is I splattered some of that frisket just to give it just a little bit of a splash effect that looks more natural in this area. Then I let this dry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some color where there will be water. What's going to happen with the frisket is that it's going to stay in place until I finish the water area, some grass and rocks over here, and so this is sort of a bank that's washed out over here. Once that's in, that will anchor the scene. Then I'll dry it, and we'll take this frisket off, put a couple of finishing touches on, and you'll see an easy way to do water. So stay with me. We're going to have a little fun with this. Let me take my brush. Doesn't matter. You could use a 1-inch brush or 1-inch flat, or you can use a, in this case, I'm using a 3/4 inch flat brush. But regardless, I think it's important to mention to you that be very careful when you paint water, not to just take a blue and paint the entire scene blue, all the water blue. Add a touch of green in it. It makes your scene look much more realistic. And whether it's there or not, when you have that much green in your landscape, it's a good idea to put the green, a little bit of the green in the water too. You'll see me do it, so pay attention. Now, I want this color to be very light. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to take some of the blue, I've got a hooker green deep, and I've got a ultramarine blue deep, and I've mixed the two together, but I've added a lot of water. So it's almost an interesting light color. I'll add a little more green to it, get a little more color out. But I want it pale, I want a light value. Watch what happens. This is sort of a fun type scene to paint. I've got a little brown coming in there, so let me remix the color, get it nice and clean again. Make sure it's nice and fresh and clean. If your palette colors are not clean, if they're muddy or dirty, stop what you're doing, clean out your palette, and start with fresh color. All right, here we go. Nice and fresh. Just lay in some color. Very simple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a lighter green and throw just a touch of some lighter green in there. And that'll add just a little bit more interest, a little variety, in other words. Come back over, pick up a little touch of cerulean blue. Not a lot, just a little bit. Throw in just a little bit of cerulean. Adds a little more interest to it. See, I'm just scrubbing it in. I'm not painting it like you would paint the wall of your house, where I'm going back and forth with vertical and horizontal brush strokes in this case. I'm just sort of scrubbing that color in. You could even take and splatter some of the color around there. It doesn't hurt. Whatever's behind it's going to be covered up anyway. Don't worry about staying inside of lines. Don't worry about that part either. It's all going to be covered up. Take and put just a little more green in this area, light green. We'll come back in. We'll go back to our blue. I'll take a little cobalt blue and add it to a little bit of my hooker green deep in this case. We'll come back in and add just a little more color in there. We'll come back and get just a little bit of the cobalt blue on its own and add just a little bit of that in there. Again, just dragging the color in. Don't pay a lot of attention to having this all filled in. You want some white still showing, even though I have some frisket on the paper. This is going to be a fun one, so just stay with me here. It won't take long to put this water in. You can see it happening quickly. A little more color up there, a little more color down here. Come back in, a little more color here. There'll be some rocks in the water and all that good stuff. You'll get to see that as well. All right, so it takes on a little bit of a green, bluish green tint. All right, now what I'll need to do is I'll need to dry this. Once I dry this area, then I can come in and I will do the grass area, rock area around it, do this particular washed out bank back here. And then I'll take the frisket off. You'll see it all come together. So I'm going to go ahead and dry it now. Now the painting is dry, and I can tell you right now I have a good feeling about this. Look at this interesting color, variety of color going on with the different greens and blues. That makes it so exciting. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some of the colors around so that I anchor this so you can understand where the water is now. Let me take a large brush. I'm going to take my 1-inch flat. I'm going to come over and I'm going to put in some, let's say, some nice yellow, interesting yellow. Make sure it's nice and clean. I want to put in some nice fresh yellow. I'm going to add to my yellow a touch of my light red, my permanent red light. And I'll come in and I'll just lay in some color. Wow, interesting. Want it nice and fresh and clean back here, like the light is bouncing off this side of that particular embankment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this light color in, and then we're going to put some dark on top, just for shadows and so forth. You'll get to see that as well. I'm going to come all the way over to this part of the area of the embankment, and you'll see this all come alive. Really fresh, exciting colors. Sometimes you really, when you're in the middle of a painting, you just feel good about it, and I feel good about this one. All right, on this side we've got some rock area, we've got some grass area. So again, I'm going to come in right over here and I'll paint an area of rock. I'll paint the rock idea and the grass idea all at the same time so that it's all one. We'll make rocks out of this after we dry it. We'll put all the shapes in. Up here I've got some wonderful looking area of grass, some prairie grass out here in Wyoming and Montana area. So we'll put that in for you. We'll come back and make that all grass later. We're just kind of putting in the color now. This is the underpainting again. So I'm going to dry this one more time, and then when we're finished, I'll start putting in all the finishing touches for you. Again, I can tell this is going to be great. Just look at all that exciting color going on here. I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to come up here and pick up a little bit of my green, and we'll add a little touch of some green up here at the top, where the grass is at the top of this embankment over here. You've seen where these embankments have washed out and it's dirt down here and so forth. So just a little bit of look of grass at the top of this embankment up here. This is all just part of the support system, the props to hold this idea together that I want to show you right here. Let me take a moment again. I'll dry this, then we'll come back and we'll have some exciting fun in finishing up this particular scene. All right, the painting is dry. Let's take a look at putting in some of the finishing touches. I'm going to start on this side with the embankment, and I'll take some of my, let's see, I'll take a little bit of my sienna, a little bit of my quinacridone rose, maybe a little bit of my ultramarine deep, and get a nice, rich, dark color, just to create a little shadow effect underneath where the grass comes down at the top here, and I've got a little bit of shadow underneath where this embankment is. And then we'll just pull some of this color right on down to create the look of an embankment. This is fun. I love these fresh colors. Just paint along like so, leaving a little bit of light area, a little bit of dark area. Have some of this area soft underneath here. Just soften that up. Ah, so much fun. This is really a fun painting for me to work on. Going to pull a little bit more of this color down just to create a little shadow effect underneath where the grass is there. I'll come back in. I'll take my number 8 round brush and a little bit more ultramarine blue deep, a little bit more of the quinacridone rose, and get it a little darker and just punch up just a couple of areas there, just for a little more contrast in a couple of areas, just for fun. Just a little more contrast. See how interesting that gets now? Let me take some of this color on this side over here and just pull some of this color on down onto the embankment like so. There we go. Really excited about this. All right. Now, what I want to do on this side, I've got some rocks and grass over here. I'll take and put a little bit darker color back behind here, just to give you an idea that there is an embankment there as well. And watch what I do. I'm going to come up with a nice little dark area here so that this area seems to be in light and the one behind it seems to be more in shadow back here. So I'll come up here and just take, now watch what I do at the top of the grass now. I'm going to create some grass for you as well. You get a little lesson plan in that as well, so a little freebie here on that one too. See how I've created the look of grass up there now at the top, where the edge of the grass meets that particular area. We'll come back over here and put a little more of this darker color in and create a little bit more of that grass all the way along there. You'll see a lot of these scenes when you get out into the Wyoming and Montana area. You see these wonderful scenes like this that are so exciting and so beautiful and so unreal looking. But anyway, let me bring a little bit of this grass back here as well, and maybe I'll go with a little different color than I have here, just for a little fun. We'll change that color, make the grass a little bit different color there so there's not both the same. Pull that back all the way like that. We got some grass back there as well. Take and pull some of the color up like so, just to give you the idea. There's some grass back there. See how this appears to be further back now. This one's more is closer and in more light than the other one. Let's take a little bit more of my dark color here on this particular scene, and let me get it nice and dark here. Come over in here and add just a little bit of dark underneath here, just to kind of tie this together back over this way as well. All right, great. Let's keep this nice and light here. I don't want to get too dark. There we go. All right, great. Now what I want to do is I want to come in and put a little more color in the grass and the rocks, and voila, we're going to have an interesting, nice area of rock. Let me take some of the rocks here. We'll separate them. We'll put a dark side and a light side to them by just taking a little bit of darker color on my brush, putting it on there, and then softening it with just water on my brush, just softening that edge. Same thing here. A little dark to one side of the rock and then soften it. Mix up a little more color to work with. Burnt sienna, ultramarine deep, some of my hooker green deep. Get a little darker color. And just create the look of some rocks. Now, just keep it simple. That's what I would suggest to you. Don't get too carried away and make it too complicated. I just want to suggest that these are rocks. I don't need a sign pointing to them saying rocks. Less is more in some cases, and this is one of those. We'll take a little bit of my color on my brush here on the script brush. We'll create another area of rock there. This is one of those where I'm moving along quickly on this thing. It's really turning out beautifully, and I'm very pleased with it. Another area of rock there. Great. Like it. Back off some of the color there. Take my brush. Maybe a little more color to this corner on this rock. I want to make this fairly realistic for you, so stick with me on this now. I'm going to come in here and take maybe a little of the turquoise blue and add just a touch of the turquoise blue, which is a very dark blue, in just to give it a little more accent in a couple of areas. Now you got the appearance of rocks. Now watch what I do to showcase the tops of these rocks. I'm going to come in and I'm going to take some of this dark green, and it's going to come in, I'm going to come in behind these rocks to showcase the rocks. See how they stand out now? All right, we'll go right on along the same way to show the tops of those rocks. Now what I'll do is just water on my brush. I'll simply just scrub that. See, I'm just kind of scrubbing it. Scrub it away. That's simple. Just scrub it away. Ah, I love it. Just love it. This is fun. This is really fun. All right, so now I have this pretty much taken care of. I'm going to come in now and take the frisket off of this particular area of water, and then what we're going to have is we're going to have the look of a nice area of moving water in this stream. I've got a frisket remover. This is basically made of neoprene, like the shoes or soles of shoes. It's about 1.5 inch square. You can get it in your art stores, and it's perfect for removing the frisket. That's what it's designed for. Sometimes called a rubber cement pickup. sometimes called a frisket remover. Just ask your friends at the art stores. They know exactly where to find them, what shelf they're on. It's yours. Just go pick one up. You'll need it for this particular episode. Watch how I pull this frisket off, and all of a sudden I have the interesting water. Now, we'll do a couple of little things to our water to make it look a little more realistic. But see how it's already coming into play with this moving water, how exciting this is? Now I'll come in and I'll soften a couple of areas. But see how interesting that is? Let me move this out of the way. Watch what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take some dark green, some dark blue, my Hooker Green Deep and my Ultramarine Blue Deep, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add just a little bit more dark too. I may even use a little Prussian blue just for a little darker area. But I want to come in and add just a couple of areas of dark just to accentuate and give a little more realistic look to where the water is. See how I've done that? And then what I'll do is just water on my brush. I'll soften, just soften a couple of areas so that they don't jump out at you, so these dark areas aren't so prominent. I'll just soften part of the edges of them. Ah, this is fun. This is fun. Look at that. See how magic happens? Practice this. You know, practice it 7 to 9 times. I always say 7 to 9 times is the secret. And if you do that, you're going to have great success with these little exercises like this. This is the way to learn. Do these little exercises first, and then take that sheet of white paper out and sketch out your painting and do your painting. But I wouldn't suggest to you that you do a complete painting if you're just starting out and haven't learned these. Break this down. Learn how to do the grass. Learn how to do the embankment. Learn how to do the frisket, and then learn how to do the water and rocks. Break it down and then put it together. Let me go back to my flat brush. I want to take this flat brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to just take a little bit of the color, and I'm going to just put a little shadow effect on some of that water so it doesn't look like it's all white, stark white. There would be some shadow in it. So we're going to put a little bit of shadow effect in that particular area of water. See that? Just toning it down so it doesn't jump out at you. Gives you the idea that it's more realistic that way. Let's go back to some blue and a little bit of the green again. You notice by adding the green in there how much more realistic it looks though. Isn't that great? I just love it. All right, now what we're going to do is come in here and add just a little bit of contrast in the water. You'll notice that I had some white areas that I did with my frisket. And now I'll come in and put in just a suggestion of some areas of darker bluish green to give you just a little bit more contrast in this water. You just know when you're having a great day when paintings turn out like this. See how interesting it becomes now? Again, I didn't learn to do this overnight. You know, I had teachers as well. And I unfortunately did not have the advantage that you have with these free workshops that you're getting here. This is just wonderful, all these little free episodes on how to do all of these interesting paintings. So take advantage of this. Wow, when's the last time you got something free? This is a deal. So take advantage of it. This is wonderful. You can get so much out of these little mini workshops that are available to you here. So absolutely take advantage of it. Tell your friends about it. You know, don't keep it a secret. Tell all your friends about all these interesting little free workshops that you can take advantage of here. I'm going to put just a little bit of color on a little bit of this area of water up here. Not a lot, not a lot. I don't want to cover up all that white. Folks, I'm going to put a mat on this. I think that it's worth putting a mat on. The reason for the mat is that when you have a mat on this, let me take the mat off first. You'll notice when the mat is off, you're looking at a lot of clutter or such around the particular scene. But when you put a mat on it, It's an eye-brain thing. What happens is that there is an edge. So your eye and brain automatically say, okay, I need to stop at the edge. Now you're focused on the inside of this particular painting, and you can see how this came together. Look, folks, you know, I'm not the greatest genius in the world. You can do this. This is easy stuff, all right? Take advantage of it. A couple of little shadow effects in the grass up here, just a few, just to create a little more interest. So again, it's not just the stark area. Maybe a little over in here if you want. Let's put just a little bit of a stronger shadow underneath this edge over here in case you can't see the difference between the grass and where the under embankment is there. So we have a little bit of that. Wow, you know what I may do? I may finish this out and complete it as a complete painting. This is so much fun. This is great stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this particular lesson plan as much as I have. I hope you'll come back and see me again. Thanks again. My name is Tom Jones.